On the main menu bar of the SkyView HDX system, you will find a button labeled Menu. The Menu button pulls up a page that provides access to many features, settings, and tools. To access this, simply press button number 6 labeled Menu. You will be presented with a full set of options displayed on the screen. These options may vary depending upon your aircraft's configuration and installed equipment. For our demonstration today, we will assume a fully configured and equipped SkyView HDX system. Let's take a look at the first row of items presented on the menu page in the Controls section. These buttons provide the controls for the labeled feature. Notice that the selections in this menu are laid out in the same order, left to right, that the features are displayed on the top bar at the top of the main system screen. The first feature here is Autopilot. Selecting this will present the user with the Autopilot control page, where in-flight control inputs of the Autopilot are made. The page presented here may be different depending on whether the system is set up to use the Expert or Simplified mode of the Autopilot. Here we are showing the Expert mode, which contains all of the same buttons and controls as the Dynon SV AP panel module, but also adds the ability to engage or disengage the yaw damper. The Autopilot, its features, and how they are used will be covered in another video lesson. So, at this point, the user can choose to exit the Autopilot page and return to the menu page by selecting the back arrow icon, or the user can choose to exit completely out of the menu Autopilot page by selecting the X. Let's go back to the menu page and look at our next feature. Our next feature in the Controls section is the Transponder, abbreviated by XPNDR. Selecting the Transponder feature will present the user with the Transponder menu page, allowing the user to make those in-flight inputs to the transponder. A quick side note here to remind you that the selection of features on this and most pages can be accomplished by both touch and knob functions. Getting back to the Transponder page, features within this page allow the user to control squawk codes, mode settings, activate the ident action, and even provide the user with a button to quickly return to a VFR squawk code without having to actually key in the code. As with most of the features on the menu page, the transponder, its features, and setups will be addressed in another video. And our next feature on the controls section is Timer. Selecting this will provide the user with a simple and useful clock timer. There are two modes for the timer available, count up and count down. Selecting count up activates your basic timer, much like a stopwatch counting up from 0. There is the ability to stop the timer and then restart by pressing run. To reset the timer, simply select the 0 button. The count up timer will go until it reaches 99 minutes and 59 seconds, where it will stop. If either timer is activated, the clock in the top bar of the main system screen will be temporarily replaced with the timer status, along with an indication if the timer is counting up or down. The countdown feature of the timer provides the user with an editable time field, allowing the user to establish a value for the start of the timer. Selecting the time field allows the user to adjust the timer to a maximum field of 99 minutes 59 seconds. Once you have set the countdown time field, select Run to start. Selecting Stop will stop or pause the timer, and selecting Last will reset the countdown timer to the previously set time. To reset the time field to 0, simply select 0. The HDX timer feature can be used for fuel tank changes, waypoint calculations, approach and hold calculations, engine warm-up or cool-downs, or any other time you need a stopwatch or countdown timer. The last feature in our controls area is the COM radio. Selection of this will present the COM radio page. This page has features that allow direct control of radio frequencies, if your system is configured and equipped correctly. The COM radio page allows direct numerical entry of COM frequencies with suggestive selection. This means digits will be eliminated as viable selections if that frequency is not available. Also displayed here is the current active broadcast and standby frequencies. We will talk more about the COM radio page, its features and uses in another video. And as we've previously demonstrated in other features, SkyView often offers more than one way to perform a function. In this case, touching the status area in the top bar for each of these features will directly open the associated feature pages we just demonstrated. Tucked in just below the controls border is PFD Tools. Selecting this will bring up the primary flight display tool page. This is the page that quickly allows you to activate or deactivate several features that are displayed on the primary flight display, such as SynViz or synthetic vision. When valid GPS data is available and high-resolution terrain databases are loaded for your region, SkyView HDX's PFD features integrated synthetic vision. Synthetic vision displays the terrain directly ahead of the aircraft. Terrain is graphically represented in colors similar to a sectional chart, which represent topographical elevations and water features. Terrain is textured with a subtle checkerboard pattern to aid in identifying aircraft movement. Expand the view of the synthetic vision with the wide view feature. This displays the HDX's synthetic vision with a much wider field of view. This is similar to using a wide-angle camera lens to capture more of the peripheral view. Be advised that when wide view is enabled, objects shown on the PFD will also appear further away. Terrain alerting is a visual alert that provides additional situational awareness of the surrounding terrain through a color layering algorithm. Terrain that is relatively close to the aircraft that the SkyView HDX algorithm predicts will be an immediate threat based on your current flight path is shaded red. Terrain that is a bit further from the aircraft will be shaded yellow. Obstacles are only shown on the synthetic vision if their highest point is within 1,000 feet below your aircraft's GPS altitude. If the highest point of an obstacle is within 100 feet below your current GPS altitude to anywhere above you, it will be displayed in red. If the highest point of an obstacle is 100 to 1,000 feet below your current GPS altitude, the obstacle will be displayed in yellow. This is the same color scheme, but not the same algorithm for determining the coloring of the displayed object used on the map page. On the map page, the shading is determined by altitude differences only, and does not consider the predicted path of the aircraft. The HDX algorithm will inhibit terrain alerting when it determines the aircraft is on the ground, such as when taxiing for takeoff or just after landing. When a flight plan is engaged either with or without autopilot, highway in the sky or HITS flight indicators can be displayed in the PFD page, but only when synthetic vision is active and an altitude bug has been set. These indicators will be shown as magenta rectangles along the flight path and altitude that has been selected. HITS is most useful for hand steering a flight plan when an autopilot is not installed or is not engaged. Airport flags are symbology on the PFD representing the location of airports in your field of vision. Rectangular icons with the airport identifier will appear directly over the airport location on the PFD page, but only when synthetic vision is enabled. They can be enabled and disabled here using the airport flag soft key. The ability to show a standard 6-pack instrument panel can be enabled under the PFD tool page. Commonly referred to as steam gauges or dial gauges, this display can be used to aid when transitioning to the more modern tape displays. This can also be used in some flight training exercises if desired. We will get more into the detail of the 6-pack display in another video. The G-meter can be displayed on the PFD page by simply selecting the G-meter icon here. When enabled, the G-meter replaces the HSI or compass rose in the primary flight display with a graphical G-meter indicator. Note that when the G-meter is displayed, the numerical magnetic heading above the HSI remains displayed for safety and navigational purposes. The G-meter shows an analog needle that indicates the instantaneous G-loading of the aircraft. Depending on how the G-meter is configured, The analog range may have yellow and/or red caution ranges configured to visually indicate the aircraft's G limits are being approached. Instantaneous G information is also shown digitally in the center of the gauge. The smaller digital numbers above and below the larger instantaneous G number are the maximum and minimum Gs that the aircraft has experienced since the G meter was last reset. The minimum and maximum Gs displayed on the G meter can be manually reset at any time by selecting the reset key. Note that even when the option to display the G meter is off, the G meter through the main setup menu can be configured to temporarily pop up when certain G thresholds are reached during flight. At the very bottom of the PFD Tools page, we have several buttons relating to navigational sources. The HSI source button toggles the HSI through the available navigational sources your system has been equipped and configured with. This may be a GPS navigator or a nav radio. As discussed in the Introduction to Touchscreen Features video, this button has the same action as touching the source window on the PFD page. Again, SkyView often offers more than one way to perform a function. Within the same area on the PFD Tools page as the HSI source are two buttons that allow the user to show various bearing indicators on the HSI display. These indicators come in a variety of colors and shapes, so we will get into more detail on their features and how these are used in another video. For now, just remember where to go to access them. Our final feature on this page is the Bugs button, located in the lower right corner. Selecting this will open the Bugs page, which allows the user to enable a variety of navigational bugs or markers to be displayed within the HDX system. If the bug is not enabled on this page, it will not be available for selection when using the system. These bugs may deserve their own instructional video and will be used in many different ways in upcoming lessons, so let's not get into any detail regarding them right now and get on to some other things. As before, to get back to the previous page, select the arrow icon at the top right corner. The remaining button selections on the menu page all deserve their own lesson, so here I'm just going to point them out to you with a very quick overview of their functions. First, we have Engine Tools, which when selected will provide the user with the Lean Assist feature if you're equipped with the engine monitoring. We're going to jump over this fuel icon for just a few seconds and point out the button furthest to the right, which will allow the user to clear or reset the trip timers of the HDX system, as in the air trip or trip run. And now, getting back to our fuel button. Selecting this button will bring up the HDX fuel computer, but only when equipped with the fuel flow and tank level sensors. This is one of the best safety features of the SkyView HDX system, and is something that is highly recommended here at Dynon for your aircraft. Getting back to our menu page, we next have the Map Controls border or submenu. Contained within this border is the Map Layers page, showing all of the available layers that can be displayed on the moving map. Under the same submenu is the Weather Options button. As you can see, this opens up a page with a large amount of selectable items to engage: ADS-B weather, animated weather, PIREPS, lightning, etc. The last two buttons within the Map Controls border are the User Waypoints and Map Setup buttons. User Waypoints provides the user with access to any custom waypoints you've created. We'll talk about this more in another lesson. And the Map Setup will bring the user into a page with a list of options that can affect the presentation of the moving map, along with filters for things like the nearest list. Finishing up the menu page, we have the Tools submenu, containing several features such as the configurable checklist, aircraft weight and balance, and maintenance log. All three of these features will be covered in their own lessons. Thanks for watching this HDX Academy video. Be sure to visit the Dynon YouTube channel for more lessons on features of the SkyView HDX system.